is when people say, well, why didn't they just leave? First reaction, if you look at the comments, they're like, why didn't they just leave? I can't believe that they would put up with that.
Reason is they're in the circle of abuse.
Hello and welcome back to She Leads the Way. I'm Nikki Bedford and today's guest is Sayyida Basma Al-Saeed. She is a specialist in mental health, a PTSD trainer, the founder of Whispers of Serenity Clinic, head of Not Alone Mental Health Awareness Campaign. And today we're going to be talking about all of her life experiences, including her time in Australia, which I'm so excited to explore. But we're also going to be talking about a more confronting topic around PTSD, particularly in child abuse and domestic violence. Welcome to She Leads the Way.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited.
As you said, Australia has a special place in my heart. So yeah, Aussie, let's go.
Aussie, let's go. Well, let's start there, actually. Take us back. Give us a little bit of a background because you have such a coloured history.
Yeah. Actually, Australia has a really memorable time in our life, in our family. I started my family in Australia. So I got married, and then after 6 months, me and my husband moved to Australia. He was doing his PhD, and I was doing my master's, and I had my lovely children there. My first two pregnancies were there in Australia.
Wow.
So yeah.
So it was because your husband wanted to do a PhD. What was it about Australia?
Yeah, we both had applied, and we had, before we got married, we were going to study anyway. I was going to do my master's, and he was going to do his PhD. So it came perfectly that we were both accepted in the same country, and in Perth particularly. So he was doing his PhD to start our marriage with studying.
Yes, both of you.
And I was doing my master's, but it was such a lovely choice. And I always tell people, if you have the choice of getting married and then traveling alone with your husband in the first years, it's actually really good. It's a really good test.
Amazing.
Yes.
And tell me before that, because I know you were actually born in the UK as well.
Yes.
So you are Miss International.
Yeah. So I was born in the UK. My granny actually originally comes from Ireland, from Tipperary, from the Hogan family, but they lived in England. So I used to go there every summer, literally, and I have so many memories. And that's why even when I go to England now, some things I get sad because I feel it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's different when you actually live there and you're not just there for holidays or just there for studying.
Yes.
I've grown up there. And it's a huge part of my life. And of course, having a granny and a great granny and cousins and everything there, it was beautiful memories that I would never ever forget.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then after that, you came back. I mean, is it home? I guess. Where would you call home?
Well, home is Oman. When I used to go to the UK, I used to go in the summers.
Yes.
So the holidays in the summers were 3 months, which is a big chunk. And I used to, when I go there, my mom used to put me in school. So I used to go to school there, and it was a really nice, actually, system in the UK. When you're in elementary, you just go into school. And when I finished school, I'd go into summer camps as well. And a lot of people probably think, oh, maybe it was, private schools, it was private summer camps. It was not. It was public schools. It was public summer camps, and it taught me a lot. And I wouldn't want to change it for the world, actually. It was such a great experience that actually made who I am today.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
And then moving into your studies, because I think that we could have a podcast episode just on the things that you've studied. You've studied a lot. Can you tell us a bit about your experience there?
It's so interesting. Sometimes it's not that I forget, but sometimes if somebody reads out my CV, so I'll tell you something really funny.
Please.
So when I used to start going to events and then people would read out the CV, I would actually feel, it's so weird, I'd actually feel shy.
Oh, really? No. Well,
like,
put it on a plaque on the window.
Come on, And then after a while, I learned that no, you should be proud, you should be happy, you should accept it. It's not being a narcissist, it's actually appreciating your work. So, and every time I hear what I've done, I go, oh, I need to do. So my head goes, I need to do more. And I used to think, okay, but why do you think that way? it's not because I want to prove myself. It's because I actually really enjoy it.
Yeah, you enjoy
And
studying.
up till today, I need to always update myself because we're dealing literally with the human mind. And the human mind evolves every day with new ideas, new things happening, especially with lots of things happening in the world. We're going through so many more things to do with mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. More in PTSD,
Yes.
child abuse, domestic violence.
Yes.
So perhaps tell us, what was it about this that made you
Yeah.
want to specialise?
It's very interesting. It visited me a lot, the idea of study more about PTSD, Basma. It's going to help a lot in life. And my first memories, actually, of anything to do with mental health, which is quite interesting. I just recently kind of clicked in my head more stronger. Everybody asks me, why did you study mental health? And it's like the golden question. There's a few golden questions. Why did you study it? Is it difficult? Is it a taboo? And I kind of like, guys, I know the answers to these questions. I've kind of gotten used to it. But then a few, maybe just months ago, not that far away, I was like, it didn't only start from school. It actually started a long time ago when I used to go and visit my granny in England. And she actually used to board people who have ADHD, autism, adults.
Really?
And basically what she used to do in the house, was a huge house, and she used to give them, a place, basically the government would pay her to give them food and a place to stay. And they used to go in the morning, a bus used to come and take them to work and then bring them back. And it was so interesting to see people who are, have difficulties, but they're working, they're functioning. And a lot of people usually think back then, like I'm talking about the 80s, that, oh my God, mental health is scary, for a child to see someone with, somebody who's going
very taboo.
But it was actually not scary for me because of the environment that I lived in with my granny. She was very jolly with them. They were really nice. I knew there was something wrong with them.
Yes.
But I never saw any kind of breakdown, anything in front of me. I just knew that there was something going on with them, not okay, and my granny's looking after them.
Yeah.
And I know these people, like, I remember their names up to today, how they looked like, everything. And that's actually when it really started. And the idea of me remembering the beginning of that was that we keep everything in our subconscious mind, and then we actually gear towards it in our life without knowing.
Yeah.
So slowly in school, I would think more about the people who are going through issues. If I know one of my friends has issues at home, I'd want to listen. If there's something going on in the world, I'd be like, Mo, if it's got to do with mental health, I'm in love and will always be in love. And I know a lot of people don't really like him with Freud.
Yes.
I'm like, I understand where it's coming from. I really resonate with the idea that things start from childhood. Yes, everybody has their flaws and say things that are not right sometimes. But I mean, who's perfect in the end? But most of the things he did and researched has helped us a lot in this. So doing that, going that through school, being a girl's guide in school, doing anything to do with society was something I would always be drawn to. Going to university in Jordan, I was drawn to looking into people who are in refugee camps. It was something I was interested in. I worked a bit with UNICEF in uni. So it was always like a path. And that's why it is, up till today, it's still a path. It's a path that's filled with a lot of passion, a lot of love, and it's not just a path because I want to be called so-and-so, I want to be famous, I want to be known. It's a tiring path sometimes because I feel like I need to give more. There's a lot of people out there that need help, and maybe I can help. I can be one of those people that can help.
That's incredible. So back when you were witnessing all of this, you actually chose to think, well, this is something that I can help with as well. You must be incredibly empathetic.
I hope I am. I like to believe I am. It is very tiring being.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because it's taking your energy.
Yes. As you grow older, you're like, I need to change some things. I need to change something. One of the things I changed when I hit 40, I was like, I want to be more mindful. I want to stop running. Like, I'm running. I want to prove myself the whole time. And then I was like, but why don't you just enjoy it? Like, stay in the moment kind of things. And it's helped a lot. And the personality of trying to also, at a time, being a pleaser.
Yes.
Was something not to do with my work as much as me. being the eldest of my sisters, being the first, and being one of the eldest cousins, it was always something in me. I want to please.
Yeah.
I want to show my dad, look what I can do. We're 4 girls. And,
Yeah. Oh, are you?
Yeah. Yes, and I was lucky to have a dad that actually didn't differentiate because you're girls, you can't do this. If you're boy, I mean, we studied, we drove, we went, we came. You know, it wasn't a big. We built things with him at home.
Yes.
We drove cars.
Yes.
But it was always a journey of, I can show him he doesn't need a boy.
Of course.
Look at us, like we can do it. So I only changed that thing about being a pleaser
Yeah.
a few years back only because it was tiring. It started to become tiring.
And also, you probably, like, I think the thing with people pleasing is you don't always know that you are a people pleaser until you actually identify that you exhibit some of that behaviour.
Yes.
So when you realise, wait a second, I'm actually doing this only for other people and not for myself, you probably realise that that's why you're a little bit more exhausted.
It is, and that's what you talk about with your clients. Like I've seen patients and clients for 25 years, and a lot of things is that.
Yes.
And you start to think, why do I not the clients? I mean, with your own personal life, why do I want to make everybody think, oh, Basma's nice, Basma's good, she's always helpful. You can't be that with everyone.
Agreed.
It actually doesn't make sense. But it's something I've been doing all my life, and I'll be there, I'll help out.
Yes.
So you take it to another level, and then one day when somebody says, oh, but you're not that good, you know, not to my work as a person,
of course.
and you go, huh?
Wait a second.
I've been doing all of this, what else do you want?
Yeah.
But nobody asked you to do it. You've actually gotten people used to that. So don't get upset when people don't do it for you.
Yeah, what an interesting reflection.
That was a very big eye-opener. And I got that big eye-opener from my husband.
Yeah, amazing.
Like, he was like, why'd you get upset when you've actually, you know, got people used to that, used to you doing that? And, you know, in Australia, you go, I'm not a whinger.
Yes.
And he's like, you can't whinge if you actually got people used to it.
Yes.
Like, so.
And I think it just reinforces the fact that you should be doing things because you want to do them.
Exactly.
And then you'll find that your energy is flowing much more consistently, I guess.
Exactly, yes.
So then I guess if we're moving back into the PTSD area, you have been helping their mental health since you were extremely young.
Yes.
Can you tell us some of the misconceptions that you would observe from people that have PTSD, particularly from child abuse or domestic violence?
It's very difficult to identify that you have PTSD. I can identify it because besides seeing so many patients, I read about it. It's one of my favorite topics to read about, but a lot of people don't really understand like why does that trigger you? And they're like, I don't know, but think about it. Sometimes you don't even know why it's triggering you. Let's talk about something very easy, the most easiest. So a lot of people are scared of cats, which I find ridiculous because I have 3 cats. But I like cats. I don't have any bad memories with cats. But sometimes people just don't like cats, and I'm like, but why? They're like, I don't know, there's something about them. And then when you actually sit with them, and I do a lot of clinical hypnosis, it's because something small happened, or somebody scared someone about a cat, or said a story about it, or the cat, you know, the screeching sound, and that stuck with them, but they didn't know when it started. So when we go back to when it starts and we ask them questions, we find out, oh, this is the beginning. So with PTSD, if you're scared about something, I'm talking about, these are the light PTSD. When we go back in time, why does the sound of the car braking give you fear? I don't know. Let's think about it. Oh, I think it's the first time we nearly had an accident, or it's the first time I saw a very bad accident, or, you know, I saw someone pass away, and that's why I'm scared of driving. You know, it's something little. It could be something you even watched.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but then we go to the other level of PTSD, which is actually PTSD started, the studies started more when it was the Vietnam War. And the veterans would come back from war, and after a while all these symptoms would come out of them not being able to process certain sounds, certain smells, certain bangs, and then slowly, you know, okay, wait a minute, there's something wrong. And they really started emphasizing, we need to focus on this, on PTSD.
Of course.
So that was with the veterans. And then of course it went all into women who are getting raped, or men also. vice versa, children, and it's a very, very heavy study, but it's much needed.
It's incredibly heavy, and I think there are many sides of it, but the sides that I see is two sides. One is referencing your example with the Vietnam War, in that you know exactly what has happened. There has been a traumatic experience, whether it's emotional abuse, physical.
Yes.
And so you know that this has happened, and you're carrying it. And you're carrying it with you.
Yeah.
On the other side, something may have happened when like when you're so young that you would just blank it out.
Yes.
Or even you're not young and you blank it out.
Yes.
And so people have this trauma on their backs that they don't even know that they're carrying. That would be the most debilitating thing, because things would, as you were saying before, things would be triggering them without even knowing what the cause is. I guess there wouldn't be any symptom to look out for specifically, would there?
There is quite a few symptoms. So sometimes they're not clear to the person.
Okay.
Like, our body is very clever. Our body hides things for us in the back room of our mind. And it only provokes it at certain times. It triggers it. And when it triggers it and then it's not looked after, it could really break you.
Yeah.
Push in depression, anxiety, OCD, all these things. So when sometimes let's say you start therapy, the therapist will open that Pandora box with you, but you're in safe hands.
Yes.
But there's so many symptoms. One of them is, as I said, the loud voice that could irritate you without a reason, a very, very loud voice. Besides, there is other disorders that don't like loud voices. A certain smell, a certain picture, a certain sound, a certain look. It could be something, a person walking and wearing shoes that why did that shoe scare me when I saw it? Maybe somebody heard that person and was wearing that. Scents are very, very, very irritating. A lot of nightmares, continuous. When you're sleeping, you dream of something.
Yeah.
But when you wake up, you're like, but why does it always go there? There is so many symptoms, actually. And again, it depends on what level of PTSD are you in. One of the most recent things I always tell everybody, we are now all going through something called PTSD, because of what happened to us through COVID.
Of course.
So now when you see masks, when you see vaccine, when you see, certain things that we saw on the news at the time, your head goes, oh God, I don't want to deal. Or, oh, do you remember that? Or the smell of medicine, all these things, especially people who went through, COVID.
Yeah.
It is not an easy thing, but we're just blessed by God that we can easily adapt.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess what I'm hearing is, if you are being triggered by things that you would be otherwise confused about, perhaps you should seek help.
Yes, it's a trigger.
Yeah,
as you
it's
said.
a trigger.
You're totally right. It's a trigger. Like if you're talking about, let's say you go with your friend to a movie and the movie has a really bad scene in it and your friend's like, I just don't want to, like, you'd all feel upset, but this friend's like gone a bit, really angry, and her mood has changed completely.
Yes.
There's something wrong. You go out somewhere with someone and then suddenly they see something and they go, oh my God, I can't deal, or they get angry, upset, or sad, or they're going through all their life, they've gone through depression, but they don't know why.
Interesting.
It's something, but they don't remember what that trigger was.
So I guess with that, because triggers, how do you think it affects the brain and the stress? Because, again, I think when you know that there is a trigger, you don't know exactly why. Your body still takes over as if it's reliving it sometimes.
Yes. So in therapy itself, it's always good to know, regardless if it's something to do with PTSD or not, to know what is your trigger. I always ask my clients, can you find what your trigger is? Why does that certain person make you angry at work? Why does that certain sound or that certain song, or what is it that makes you, tick that way?
Yes.
Once you find that, that's the golden key, literally, and we help you find that.
Yeah.
Now with PTSD, it's also the same idea, but again, you need to kind of, not everybody's aware of their body and their mind. It is not an easy thing, but you can notice that there's something not okay with this situation.
Yeah.
And you know what happens? Usually it's as you grow older.
Yeah.
When you're
Yes.
young, you don't really think about things as much. You're so busy, you know, and some people maybe something happened to them before hitting puberty and maybe afterwards, but they were so angry, they didn't notice. When you're older, your head becomes overloaded with so much things in life. It's like buying,
Yeah.
you know, when you buy a new computer and the disk is so clean and it
Yeah.
saves everything. As we get older, we can't save a lot of things, so some things kind
Yeah.
of fall off, you know, fall out. And that's when we can't keep all these memories intact in that back room.
Yeah, of course.
And it comes forward.
Because I guess that's my next question. With a lot of people, they know that things have happened or have had traumatic experiences, and their reaction is it didn't happen.
Yes.
Putting it in the
Yes.
back of their mind, like
They don't want to deal with it.
they don't want to deal with it at all. So, can you tell me what the effect on your body that would have in the long run? Because it's easy to be like, oh, but it's festering
Yes,
inside you, isn't it?
You're right. I mean, a lot of people even say, "Why do I have to talk about it?"
Yeah.
Like even in therapy, like, "Why do I have to go back?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I understand it's not easy to go back because it's, you know, safe in a
Yeah.
box. But why does it need to be safe in that box? Oh, but if it comes out, it's going to be a monster. But shouldn't we learn how to deal with it? Because it's going to come out in your body.
Yeah.
Our physical side of things, our health.
Yeah.
A lot of things happen to our body and we don't know. It's because of mental health.
Yeah,
You know, a lot
absolutely.
of panic attacks, people don't know it's a panic attack. People think panic attacks are heart attacks, you know, or difficulty in breathing. These
Yeah.
are one of the signs. Panic attack is a big thing that's connected with PTSD.
Really?
Yeah, one of the biggest things actually would be panic attacks. And you'd find a person palpitation, breathing,
Yeah.
you know, and something is going on. But a lot of people don't identify that the two are connected. And as you said, they don't want to deal.
Yes.
And some people's personalities are like that. They just don't want to deal. They think if we don't deal, it will disappear, it will go away. It sadly does not disappear.
No.
You need to deal with it, and it's very tough. I mean, me sitting here saying, you need to deal, you need to
Yeah.
deal. Okay, you're just saying, but you know, it's difficult, and it's very difficult. And I really applaud every patient and client that come from, you know, they go down to zero and they build themselves
Yeah.
to be able. And why do we do that? Although it's going to be tough, is so if anything happens later on, you know how to deal with it. You know what's your trigger, and you'll know how to go ahead.
Yeah.
But if I don't deal, one day you will collapse.
Yeah, of course.
Because your body, as I said, the computer, what happens? It freezes after a while, right? The disk just goes, it just gets messy,
Yeah.
it doesn't work, it gets blocked. So we need to always keep these channels. And our body retains a lot of these things in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Some people have eating disorders because of it. Besides the depression, anxiety, the OCD, loads and loads of things. Besides the physical pain, headaches,
Yeah.
heart palpitation. There's so much physical side to it, and it's got nothing to do sometimes with something to do with our body.
Yeah.
It's our mind.
And they're probably starting to lose sense of who they even are in
Yes.
the process. And beyond that, then their self-worth is just
Yeah.
being completely diminished.
Yeah, and they just want to numb it. I've noticed a lot of people want to numb stuff. So they'll either use substance abuse, they'll either use drinking, or they'll either use medication alone.
Yes.
We just need it to just
Yeah,
you know,
just-
go to sleep.
Yeah.
But where is it going? Where is that feeling going? It's numbing right
Yeah.
now. But dealing with it is tough. But after a while, you'll know how to react
Yeah.
when things happen.
That's actually a good question. What place do you think medication has when it comes to treating PTSD? Because
Yeah.
you're right, it can be a bit of a Band-Aid effect, but in some
Yes.
cases where trauma is so strong,
It needs it.
it needs it.
You know, I always picture the idea of somebody falling in a well. The well is very deep and gets deeper and deeper. And the hand that, you know, is reached out to pull you, it could be the hand, if we imagine the medication.
Yes.
And then pulling you up with therapy. So it's 2 in 1. It cannot be only medication, and I would like to repeat this more than once.
Yes.
It can start with medication and then continue with therapy or work together at the same time. It takes time for medication to kick in sometimes as well. But sometimes therapy alone is not enough because the person is not focused. He's
Yeah.
not there. He can't. It's just too much things happening. I'm talking about the extreme
Yeah.
cases here, of course, not the lighter. The
of
lighter can be
course.
done with, you know, sessions and all
Yeah.
of that. But you need that to be able to go on in the sessions. Because
Yeah.
if you're fogged out and you can't think, how can you even listen? How can you sit with
Yeah.
it? But at the same time, it is not a good idea to only, for years and years, only use medication. And that is the problem. It's not about medication becoming, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I don't want medication, I'm going to be addicted to it and all that. It is not that as much as you have only relied on one resource, because the idea is afterwards, in some cases, I don't want to say all the cases to be right, you stop medication and you continue with your sessions and then you're fine with both, as fine as you can be.
Yeah, of course.
But you cannot just stick only with medication. And again, I would like to repeat, sometimes you can't only do therapy. It's teamwork. It should be both together.
Yeah. Let's pivot slightly to, I guess, child abuse and violence at an early age.
Yes.
Given the trauma that children would have as they grow up, if it's untreated, do you see those kids becoming violent to handle their own problems as they grow older?
Lots of studies have shown that. Some have shown that no, it depends on the personality and the environment later on. But I'm a Freudian. I believe that childhood trauma affects an adult in a lot of ways. A lot of ways. I've seen it in my patients. I've seen it in studies. I've seen it in theories. It does affect, and that's why we always emphasize that childhood is one of the most important times of any human.
Yeah.
So parents are not just a parent, they're like a guiding light.
100%, yeah.
And not every parent can be that. We understand. Not everybody is a parent that can do that, because they've probably gone through things as well, but they can seek help. They can seek support. But the environment, the first environment for a child, is the most important environment of a human being.
Yeah.
Now, this does not mean that, oh, that's it. If they're messed up and that's it, there's no hope, Just let them go, there's no hope. No, they can change their life. It's like a chain. If that chain gets cut off, if it's got a bad link, it's good. But if it doesn't, and that's what we've been seeing with generations before, a lot of people say, well, I was brought up like that. Yeah, but it was wrong.
Yeah.
It wasn't right. And also, it doesn't mean with the new generation, everything has to be by the book.
Of
it's
course.
Either, this way or that.
Yeah.
We need to mix two together
100%.
for the best result.
And I can just understand how impactful that would be. As children, your parents are your role models, and so you learn from them. So getting out of that habit, not that they wouldn't always become violent, but seeing that behaviour firsthand, it would be difficult to, what is it when it's, training learned behaviour? Because their mind would be telling them that this is normal.
That's true. And this is the norm.
Yeah,
and
this
everything
is the norm.
else is abnormal. And a lot of people will go, okay, but sometimes the parents are the best and they've done everything, but the child is still violent.
Yeah.
Yes. That does happen. It could be a lot of other factors too. But the main, strongest factor is that environment. Because even if there is, let's say a really bad, evil child, like they show you sometimes in movies and stuff, but the parent would still be, concerned to look after that child.
Yeah.
Nothing, oh God, he's a bad seed. It's just, it's your child.
You need to nurture,
And we've seen that. We've seen a lot of sacrifices in parents that have tried their best and gone beyond just for them. But the other side is when there is trauma in the family, this is a glass that keeps on getting filled and filled if it's not emptied properly.
Yeah.
And that is 100% true.
Yes.
And it's important because sometimes people say, oh, Basma, why do you always emphasize on the mental health of women? Is it because you're a woman? I'm like, no, actually, if I was to say something, the percentages of men that come to the clinic are higher in our clinic. Let me talk about our clinic. It's not that, but it's a mother brings up a child, of course, with the father, but that child, if the child brought up in a good family, the mother is balanced in mental health, that child grows up, becomes a father to a good family, and it continues. It brings up a good society.
Yes.
So a mother brings up a whole society. It's not something small.
No.
But at the same time, if that mother goes through so much trauma, so much pain, for lots of reasons, because women go through psychological issues because also of our hormones, because also about society. There's so many factors. That doesn't mean that, we have to focus on how she is.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we should just ignore it. It doesn't matter,
No.
That we have to.
Yeah. And speaking of the woman or the male, though I know that when it comes to domestic violence, I think 85% are male abusers, but male or female.
There is, yeah, we've heard so many male also,
Yes.
when I say male get hit or abused, it's a very bad reaction.
Really?
The first thing people will be like, huh?
Yeah.
They always have this, what? Like, and that makes it bad for the male who get abused
Of
because they go
course.
quiet.
Yeah, and they feel shame.
It feels like it's more acceptable, which shouldn't be acceptable
Never.
in any gender, for women to say it,
Yes.
but it's not acceptable at all
yeah.
for men. And it goes back again with how boys are brought up in every culture. You're a boy.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be strong. You should not, cry. You're tough, but they're humans.
Yes, of
and
course.
they go through things. So it's how we mold,
Definitely.
all of these things.
And so if we talk about then domestic violence with either males or females, to your point, when people scoff, one of the biggest things that are actually spoken about is when people say, well, why didn't they just leave? When you hear stories, even on the news
Yes.
and people, the first reaction, if you
Yes.
look at the comments, they're like, why didn't they just leave? I can't believe that they would put up with that.
Yeah.
When I read, I think, because obviously you just think how awful they would be feeling.
Yes.
There would be shame,
Yes.
but also for a lot of people, women particularly, the finances in the family and also wanting to keep the family together.
Yeah.
But this sort of shame or guilt about leaving these sorts of situations, is this something that you see a lot?
Yeah. So first of all, they don't leave sometimes. Mostly, the reason is they're in the circle of abuse. Some women are very well off financially, very well educated, from a very good family, and they can live
Yes.
without. But they're in a circle of abuse that is controlled by emotion. They're controlling their mind, their emotion. All of these are being controlled, and they feel this is safer
Yes.
than whatever I might see outside. So sometimes it's
wow,
not
so
even
it's
that.
not
It's
even
a control kind of thing from the other person, the other partner.
And why do you think that they would feel controlled when they have more of an ability to leave on paper? There's no judgment, but on paper, what do you think it is that is tying them?
Control.
It is. So it's
You can
the
control a
emotional
mind.
abuse then.
Do you know that some cases a person has been abused and raped and hurt and kidnapped, and the door is open for them to run away, okay? But they don't run away.
Am I
Because that's the person
Yeah.
who's brought them in has controlled them so much that they can't. So when we say, why didn't they go? Maybe it's because she doesn't have enough money. It's not always the case. Or maybe it's because of her kids. It's not always the case. Or maybe it's because she really loves this person.
Wow.
It's control, and it depends on that other person who's controlling, male or female. It depends how it is, how
Yeah.
it goes. Are they controlling the mind of that person? And then also, another point, maybe that person, this had happened to them before
Yes.
they even got married. It's like their mind is just gets adapted. Oh, this is how it should be for me.
Wow.
This is how it is. A lot of people say, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to leave because for my kids. And I usually say this message. It's you have to decide what's good for you and for your kids. But let me just say this. If your kid keeps on seeing you being abused day after day after day, and the environment at home is really bad and really toxic, and today if you're being abused, tomorrow your kids will be abused,
Yeah.
do you think your child would want to stay? There's a lot of cases where children come back to the mother and say, why did you stay?
Yeah, I bet.
And the mother has been sacrificing all her life thinking, I have to stay for the kids.
Yeah.
You have to think. You have to look after yourself to be able to look after these kids. That does not mean you leave the kids and run away at all. Just find a solution once you are ready. Because it's like a switch,
Yeah.
you know. One day they wake up, no, this is it. And we hear a lot of cases where people have run away with their kids or found
Yeah.
solutions. And lots of organizations help as well.
Yeah.
A long time ago, it was the financial part. A long, long time ago, because women relied on men
Yes.
to bring back, bring food to the table and all of that. But after years, it changed.
Yeah.
Women are also doing that.
That's a good point, especially when it comes to the emotional abuse, because that can have such a strong hold. I was doing a bit of research before we met, and there was one story where she was well educated. She, was backed financially, had a couple of kids, but she thought that she could fix him, and she didn't believe that he meant it. Like, she thought that she knew him. Yes. Like, out of all of the 10 years that they've been married, he's only acting out in the last 2, and she thought that she would be able to fix it, and that he was almost the victim, not her. Like, and I was watching it. I had to stop because, like, when you're looking at something like this from the outside, at a completely different perspective, at a more healthy perspective, having not been through what she's going through, you think, oh my gosh, I just want to give you a big hug. Like, that would just be such a traumatic experience. But she was actually she was doing a talk on it, and since realised how silly it was that she was convincing herself, but just how strong that emotional abuse was.
It's scary and sad, especially if you have a very dear friend and a dear friend, a sister, and a relative. You know that they're going through something really bad, and maybe you've told them.
Yes.
But sometimes they'll even get angry with you and say, oh, you don't like me. You don't want me to be happy in my life. You want me to leave. And you're like, huh? Kind of thing. Why? So the approach has to be different. You can't tell a person, but you can assist them. It's very different, the approach. But they always go through this, especially if you have a narcissistic partner. Narcissistic people are the most difficult people to live with, to the extent that sometimes it's said that it's better to leave because there's no other solution. They will not seek help because they think they're the best.
Yes.
They don't think they're wrong. They really use emotional abuse strongly. And they could be very charismatic, amazing.
They're so
Nobody
charming.
will believe you if you tell them outside this person is like hell at home. Because they have this persona of amazing.
Yes.
For whatever reason, they have been brought up like that. A lot of times we hear the case of, I've seen women come to the clinic and they're hit black and blue, and I'm thinking the first reaction is, help me seek help. The first reaction is sometimes, teach me how to make him love me. Now, as a therapist, we do not say, what?
I know. It's like me.
What?
Well, I'm like,
no, because we have to think, where is it
do you just
coming
go in
from?
and give them a
And we
hug?
cannot give them a hug.
You can't?
Either, unless we ask them for their permission as well. We can't just jump in and give them a hug either. So you need to sit and you build that rapport with the client.
Course.
And then that hug does come later after you get you take permission, of course. But just the body language itself shows I'm with you sometimes.
Yeah,
you
of
know?
course.
The way we sit, the way we move forward, our eyes, there's a lot of connection. And then after a while in those sessions, they realize, oh yeah, I don't want him to love me. This wasn't love. Because you know what he said? He would say things like what you said earlier. Oh, I'm sorry, or it's the last time, or I had a bad day, and you think, okay, the first time, the second time, but then it becomes
repetitive.
Norm, and he does it all the time. Then he thinks, it's okay, I'll just tell her, I'll do this in the morning, I'll tell her I'm sorry, or I'll get her an amazing watch, a car, a house, and just numb it.
It must be so shocking though, because, I mean, for a narcissist, they can just change. So they've got this pattern of being the most charming, lovable creature to lure in that person and then change. So this person is like just hit with this set of emotions that is complete opposite to what they were dealing with. Like that would just be, so you would think, well, as my duty as a partner, I need to come in and help or like him because it's so out of character.
Yeah, but that's what you think the first, the second, the third time.
Yeah.
But then when it becomes a pattern, you get used to it sometimes and you don't know.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, there's something not right here. And they become very clever.
Yes.
The person who gets abused becomes an artist in hiding things that are happening with them.
Yeah.
if it's physical or sexual or emotional abuse, nobody knows, because they have this art of how to hide things, how to
Yes.
show, oh, we're fine, you know, a perfect family, and we want to show the outside world there's nothing going on, you know,
Yeah.
inside, what happens inside. And it's interesting with all cultures. I used to think it's only maybe in the Arab culture, but as I read and look into history, it's in every culture that things that happen at home are at home.
Yeah.
And things that happen outside are outside. You know, you
Yes.
learn this, and some mothers teach this to their
Yeah, definitely.
daughters or to their sons, and fathers
Yes.
to their sons too. But being abused is a very difficult topic. It breaks you internally into tiny, tiny pieces, and it's very hard to build that person sometimes again.
Yeah.
And it's the worst that could happen to you. That's why PTSD is one of those studies that are very important to study
Yes.
and to read about and look after people who have gone through all of this trauma, because
Yeah.
it's a mix of a lot of things.
Definitely.
And once they kind of see a safe shore,
Yes.
then you know that they exhale. I've seen so many cases where people who have been abused exhale afterwards. They use that pain.
And
So
then
you could either use it two ways. You could either use that pain and continue letting it break you,
yes.
or you can use that pain to fuel you
Yeah.
to do good and to be stronger, and also to help yourself and to help others.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We have to wrap up now, but I feel that there is so much more that we could uncover and discuss. So please let us know if you have any questions. Perhaps we'll have to have you back on,
Yes,
Sayyida
I
Basma.
would love it. And if you guys are going through anything, please seek help. Reach out to anyone, please, because the more you stay in these relationships, or the more you stay in hurt, it will never get better. It will get worse.
Yes.
So seek help as soon as you can.
Yeah, wonderful. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so
The
much,
pleasure
Sayyida
has been all
Basma.
mine.
Thank you so much for joining us on She Leads the Way. And if you've been listening to She Leads the Way for a while, I'd love it if you could subscribe. We are at Nikki Bedford on YouTube. We are at She Leads the Way podcast on Instagram. I haven't ever asked anyone to like or subscribe, but I asked my mum for feedback, and she's like, you sort of really quickly end the episodes. Can you let people know that they can subscribe? So thanks, Mum. And please follow, subscribe, all of that.
All the best. Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll
Take
catch
care.
you next time.
Thank you.